Well, if you're a fan of A&E and you've heard of Duck Dynasty, then here's some rather disheartening news about the series. Apparently, this article is about a petition being launched to reinstate Duck Dynasty star Phil Robertson of Duck Dynasty, as you see in the picture there. And this was brought to my attention last night by Sheena Marie Bach, who wants me to share my utmost feelings about this. Let's read, shall we? The Christian organization has started a petition drive aimed at getting AME to reverse its decision to indefinitely suspend Duck Dynasty star Phil Robertson from filming episodes of the hit show after he came under fire for comments regarding his views on homosexuality. The group, known as Faith Driven Consumer, urges people to stand with Phil by signing a letter addressed to A&E that accused the cable company of engaging in intolerant, discriminatory, and punitive treatment of Robertson. In a statement issued Wednesday after Robertson's controversial comments in a GQ magazine article, A&E explained its decision to suspend the star. We're extremely disappointed to have read Phil Robertson's comments in GQ, which are based on his own beliefs and are not reflected in the series Duck Dynasty. His personal views in no way reflect those of A&E networks, who have always been strong supporters and champions of the LGBT community. The network has placed Phil under hiatus from filming indefinitely. Among Robertson's remarks in the GQ interview were his views that homosexuality is not logical. And he offers his opinion that being gay can lead to other sinful behaviors. Start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there. Bestiality, sleeping around with this woman and that woman and that woman and those men, he told GQ reporter Drew Magari. Don't be deceived, neither the adults, the idolaters, the male prostitutes, and the homosexual offenders, the greedy, the drunkards, the slanderers, the swindlers. They won't inherit the kingdom of God. Don't deceive yourself. It's not right. Robertson added. The petition, which calls on A&E to formally apologize to Robertson, his family, and shows millions of viewers, says the reality star's comments are simply reflective of a biblical view of sexuality, marriage, and family. A view that has stood the test of time for thousands of years and continues to be held by the majority of Americans in today's world as a whole. The letter reads, while the LGBT community may be offended by this opposing viewpoint, your rash, discriminatory, and unfair treatment toward Mr. Robinson, a recognized symbol of the faith community, is a slap in the face to faith-driven consumers and everyday Americans alike. Yeah, that's the article in a nutshell. Excuse me, it's really, really early and I haven't slept. So, I'm going to basically share my thoughts about it. Now, even though I don't watch Duck Dynasty, I've heard good things about the show. And I have to say, when certain issues like, sexuality and whatnot, when that comes into play, things just get really nasty. Things always just seem to get really nasty every time somebody shares their sexual preference, especially in the media. It's like, if you say you're gay, it will cause such an uproar. Or you're lesbian, or anything of that nature. That to me drives away viewers more than bring them in. Because honestly, you want to see what the TV show is about. You don't really care about sexual preference of any sort, and nor should it play a factor in a show of this caliber. That would be like me watching an episode on True TV's Hardcore Pawn and seeing that Les is open up to say that he's gay or something, you know. And I'm sorry, but, you know, sexual preference should not be the focus of any show whatsoever. I mean, imagine if you will, most of the shows that we have now, it basically just says, you know, should it matter? You know, this has these sort of overtones in it. Because there are plenty of shows that kind of, you know, does this. And, you know, whether there's a crew playing the role of somebody being gay or whatnot. I mean, let's go back, shall we? There was one person, I remember going back, and everybody remembers Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And we all remember Billy. Now, Billy was, of course, a gay guy trying to play a non-gay guy. And again, should it really be a difference? Yes and no. Because when you're acting, that's what you're doing. You're acting. I don't see the point in why sexual preference should be a big deal. It should not be a big deal. But the problem is that you have certain radical groups that want to say, oh, this is impure and whatnot. Well, consider this. You guys are acting like assholes. Because really, there's a time and a place for everything. That's all I remember. There's always a time and a place for everything. When you have something like this, it only makes things just totally messed up. Now, let's go knee deep further, shall we? We got the inside decision to suspend Phil Robertson. It says here, Annie's top executive carefully considered whether to suspend Duck Dynasty star Phil Robertson and outright anti-gay remarks. And ultimately decided his comparison of homosexuality bestiality was over the line. A network executive told The Wrap. The executive told Nancy Dubuc, the CEO of A&E Networks, ultimately reached a suspension decision because Robinson's remarks were in conflict of the fundamental values of the company. He was just making a point. Where was all this? Dubuc was responding in part of the concern of employees within the company, the executive said. She gathered the information, addressed it, thought seriously about this, said the executive. It's a dilemma. Dubuc is one of the most powerful television execs in Hollywood, overseeing A&E, Lifetime, and the History channels. Her Dynasty is powered largely by Duck Dynasty, the highest rated reality show on the air. On their network. I'm not going to read all this. I'm really not. The executive also said that arguments that A&E had somehow taken Robinson's free speech away were ridiculous, as suspension from a TV show that did not curtail his ability to speak out freely. Just imagine that for a moment. A reality show that basically doesn't give you the full right to use free speech. God-given right. You have the right to free speech. No matter what it is, you still have that right to free speech. Can't take that away. That's against free will. The executive said that any notion that A&E had conflict with Christianity was also absurd, considering A&E's history just aired the hit miniseries The Bible. The decision to suspend Robinson came Wednesday night, hours after an early morning phone call between A&E execs and GLAAD. The civil rights group told the Wrap a GLAAD spokesman would not say which executives were on the call. They took this very seriously as soon as the news broke, said Rich Ferrero, the spokesman. A&E initially released a statement from Robertson in which he would say he would never treat anyone with disrespect just because they're different from me, quote unquote. But the network declined to comment itself until Wednesday night when it was announced the suspension. Both the network and GLAAD have gotten heat from the stand. Talk show host Sean Hannity gave out the numbers on the air of Dubuc and A&E chairwoman Abby Raven. Both received personal messages on Twitter. Some called it a boycott. Dear at A&E TV, congratulations, you just committed suicide. One Duck Dynasty fan wrote. GLAAD, meanwhile, has said it has never received as many angry calls and emails about its positions as it did about Duck Dynasty. In the 5.5 years I've worked at GLAAD, I've never received so many violent, angry phone calls and social media posts attacking GLAAD for us speaking out against these comments. Phone calls who believe that he's correct. This kind of reminds me of when Production IG, or I might be wrong, it's either Production IG or another company suffered flack for Neon Genesis Evangelion when they first brought out the movie, I should say. When they first brought out the movie, it was just crazy because, you know, many fans just didn't like the movie. And I don't mean the new movie, I mean the old one. The one following the series. The fans just like, what the fuck was this? And it's kind of like this. These days, the fans have more power than the execs because they stand behind. When a good show has good people on it, they will stand behind this show 100%. And they will tell the suits out there, you cannot do this. You just killed a good show. You've done this. You've done that. As I said, it gets better. Because there's a Duck Dynasty family release statement. And they say, Duck Dynasty clan cannot imagine doing show without Phil Robertson. The Robertson family of Duck Dynasty fame has spoken out about the indefinite suspension of family patriarch Phil Robertson, who was pulled from the A&E reality show on Wednesday after making anti-gay comments in a GQ interview. Note to self, when I really do get famous, I will not say everything that is on my mind. I will say what they want to hear and what they need to hear. That's all. In a statement posted on the Duck Commander website, the family says that it cannot imagine going forward with the show if Phil isn't aboard. And that's in discussion with A&E to determine what his suspension means for the future of the show. In the statement, the family asserted that Phil would never incite or encourage hate, and that they were disappointed in the suspension. They also said Phil's expression of his faith is in his constitutionally protected right. And this is the full statement below. We want to thank you for all your prayers and support. The family has spent much time in prayer since learning of A&E's decision. We want you to know that first and foremost, we are a family rooted in our faith in God and our belief that the Bible is His Word. While some of Phil's unfiltered comments to the reporter were coarse, his beliefs are grounded in the teachings of the Bible. Phil's a godly man who follows what the Bible says are the greatest commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself, or love thy neighbor. Phil will never incite or encourage hate. We are disappointed that Phil has been placed on hiatus for expressing his faith, which is his constitutionally protected right. We have had a successful working relationship with A&E, but as a family, we cannot imagine the show going forward without our patriarch at the helm. We are in discussion with A&E to see what that means for the future of Duck Dynasty. Again, thank you for your continued support of the family. This goes without saying, you take one part of a family, it's going to collapse. Like, for instance, some families stay stronger when they're together. Some families don't last that long when they're not together. Say, for example, my family. Alright? My family. When I was 13, and most people know, or for those who are new, I've suffered a lot throughout the years, and this kind of puts in mind of how my family is. For those who do know, well, you don't really need to. You don't really need to know why. But for those who don't know, here's why. My family, of course, we've been standing strong for I don't know how long. I know my back history within my family is that we're partially Native American. We have Cherokee and Blackfoot in our family. And of course, we have an old picture of them in my grandparents' old house. Now, my grandparents passed away some years back. Needless to say, the entire family crumbled under the weight that since my grandmother and grandfather passed away. And this is right after my dad passed away, mind you. Because I went in this order: my father, my grandmother, and my grandfather. They all passed away in that order. Now, the family as a whole isn't the same. It's not the same without the main part of the family, which is like the grandparents. The grandparents are basically that. You know, they are the root of the entire family. When they're gone, hopefully there are people strong enough who can hold on to that. Now, seeing that my father was the patriarch of the group, of this family, of my family. When he passed away, to me, I felt I lost, what it is to be a man. I've lost my figure, my role model. I've lost my role model, and it took me years and years and years to actually, basically shuffle through it and just try to get over it. That's not an easy thing sometimes. But what isn't easier is trying to get along without having a father. And yes, when I was in junior high, I broke down. I broke down because I had to basically push without having a father. It wasn't that easy, but it's hard. So imagine, if you will, this guy not being around, and this station decides, oh no, we're going to take him off just because he was speaking his piece. I can say this, even now, I cannot imagine my family, my current family. I cannot imagine life without my folks. I really can't. Because really, I'd be lost. I'd lose all my drive as basically my whole identity. My whole identity as who I am and what I'd be doing, it's all lost. It's just no good. And it doesn't sit well with morale. I'm sure most people can understand that. But what can I say about this? Well, I don't watch A&E. I used to. I used to watch A&E. These days, I don't really watch A&E. I watch True TV. If ever I watch reality shows, I usually watch True TV. A&E fucked up, just like most stations these days. It's like ABC, they fucked up, or NBC, or Fox, or any kind of big station that has like a worldwide reputation, and they do one thing that is wrong, you kind of fuck up, and you have to make it up to the people. You have to make it up to the fans. It's like in the 1980s. In the 1980s, we only had two shows that basically meant a lot. You had the Transformers and G.I. Joe. When you put them in movie format, and then you start getting rid of the main character, you're gonna get some hatred. You're gonna get some hatred, and suffice to say, it ain't a good thing to get that kind of hatred, and you have to make it up to the fans. So My closing thoughts is A&E need to really make up to their fans. Because A, you're not only breaking up a good show, but you're breaking up a family. Not only that, but the fan base is quite pissed. Not pissed, but pissed at the family. I mean, not the family, but they're basically pissed off at the station. I mean, if I were to do something like I did long ago when I was younger, I would write them a letter, a big letter so bad. I would type it up, and I would send it right to the company. And after that, matters fixed. I've done it plenty enough times. I've done it before. But if I was one of these fans, I'd do the same thing. I'd write a letter. I wouldn't even, first off, I wouldn't even watch the channel. To be perfectly honest, I would not even watch the channel. That's how bad that is. I wouldn't even watch the channel because when you do that, you just lost a chunk of the fan base. You've lost a chunk of the fan base and you cannot get it back. So, my closing remarks about this. A&E better fix their shit. As far as I know. And I will of course share this article with the rest of you guys. But point is, don't ever mess with a good show that doesn't need, fixing just because it's free speech. Yes, it's free speech. You can say whatever the hell you want to say. And even though you get beep on it, still, the point is, you're voicing out what you feel. And, you shouldn't be penalized for doing that. That's the problem that we have now. That you're getting penalized for doing something that you're not supposed to be. That basically, you have a right, because whether you're on camera or you're not on camera, like with the internet, I'm voicing my opinion right now about a series. About what? About a series that I haven't even seen before, but from what I heard, it is a good series. But again, if it violates anything like the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, or something like that, yeah, you done fucked up, and you gotta fix that. So yeah, that's my honest opinion about it, and I'm gonna stick with that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share this main article with you. And please, do share your comments. Tell me what you think about it. And, yeah. That's all I'm going to say about it. So this has been the Tenkaichi of Gaming. And thank you once again for the articles. I basically am just sharing what I feel about this, even though I don't really watch the series, but I'm sharing what I feel about it. So until then, take care, God bless, and stay tuned for more videos in the near future. Until then, have a wonderful weekend, and Merry Christmas.